In a world overrun with an infinite amount of multiverses, originating from a plethora of sources, four longtime friends band together to try to make sense of it all and present it to an audience in an easy-to-digest podcast. This is Geeking Off the Page.
Greetings, geeks. I'm Mike Kitchen, and now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
Hey guys, I'm Trevor Brown, and yes, damn it, I do read a lot of books. So up yours, Kev.
I'm Gavin, and
my name's Troy, and I'm getting too old for this shit. Welcome to episode 31 of Geeking Off the Page. It's a collection of like-minded guys that have been together as friends for 25 years that used to do this sitting in college, just shooting the shit about video games, movies, TV shows, and whatever. And now we come together digitally to do it and send it out into the world to see who else is going to listen in on our ramblings and all that sort of thing.
See who else ran away. They bravely ran away.
Away? Yes. Nice little friggin' Monty Python there to start us off. Thank you, Michael. So we're going to start off with a couple of articles that have popped up this past week and all that. Some a little older than a week, but we haven't done any sort of updates recently and all that. And the first thing that we are going to talk about is how Jason Reitman has come up with a really cool idea for a Ghostbusters themed park ride. Now, as I had mentioned in our preamble and all that, that a couple of articles have been written about this, stating that, hey, this ride's going to come to Disney, and when it's has nothing to do with that. It's basically Jason Reitman has basically said, I come up with a cool idea. It's really kind of neat. It would look good as a ride, and if anyone decides to work on it, I'd love to be involved with it. And that's basically it. That's as far as it is. It's an idea, people. But I've seen
Imagine it showed up in the Haunted Mansion all of a sudden.
That would be yes. The Ghostbuster, the Ecto-1 breaking through the wall of the side of the Haunted Mansion. No, going through the graveyard at the end. Going through the graveyard at the end of the Haunted Mansion ride would be fantastic. So basically, he basically mentions that it would be the chase sequence from Ghostbusters Afterlife, where Phoebe is hanging outside Ecto-1, flying around corners, trying to catch Muncher. So it looks like it would be like one of those like Men in Black shooting games or the Toy Story little shooting games. You're going around the ride, flowing around, and you got to shoot at different ghosts and all that sort of thing. Basically, let's see, where is it? I want to know how it feels to hang on the outside of a car. And that's why he actually made that particular sequence in the movie. I'm trying to relive fantasies of riding the DeLorean or riding on speeder bikes on Endor and Return of the Jedi. So if it could feel like that, it would be great. And that's basically what Jason Reitman has said about his idea for it and all that. And again, the sequence that, again, it's in the trailer, so it's not like it's huge spoilers and all that, but it's a freaking cool looking sequence and all that.
I have to jump in before we get too far away from the DeLorean.
Yes.
Like the first year married, we went to Universal to the Back to the Future ride where the DeLorean flies up in the air and starts flying around.
Yeah.
My wife got motion sickness and tried to jump out of the flying DeLorean. She was able to try and unbuckle and get outside of the window, and I had to pull her back into the ride before she jumped out. Yeah.
Wow.
Fun experience.
Wow.
was she in fact motion sick?
Something was definitely wrong. Whatever it was.
When I read that article, all I could envision is, being in like a two-seater roller coaster ride, and at some point both seats suddenly extend out, and so you're outside of the car, feet dangling over the abyss sort of thing, and then whatever's coming around you, and then getting pushed back in. But I mean, the logistics of that, and people who would like stick their legs out so it gets hit in the side of the car, that that's going to happen. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because people are
dumb,
stupid.
Well, it's just
Yes.
they try to, what if I do this? You get hurt, moron.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's ways you could design it. The car could not have a floor, so your feet are always dangling, or
Yeah.
the platform of the car would always be there to keep your legs from
Well,
getting
yeah,
chopped
because
off.
there's the one Harry Potter ride where you're just sitting on a bench sort of thing, and your feet are dangling, and you're
Like sore.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, or soar. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, soaring.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, there could be ways to do it, and hey, I'd sign up to go see that sort of thing, especially if you get to hold on to the proton stick and
Oh,
all that
hell yeah.
as part of the ride.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Forget
Especially
that.
as the
yeah.
ride starts, that you hear the sound of the proton pack starting up, and the wand you have suddenly
Oh,
lights
because
up.
it would be in the seat that you're sitting in. You'd feel the thumping and the humming
Yeah, so
of
it's
the
part of the
proton
back of your
pack.
seat would be dressed
That's
up
the
like a
straps.
proton
That's
pack.
the straps. You actually put the straps of the proton pack on
Yeah, it
as
clicks
your
in,
harness.
But so, and then you pull the gun over your shoulder,
Yeah.
and you hear the pack operate, and that's when you see the lights start to kick up on the gun, and then that's when you are ready to go. And when it's time you get to a point where you're ready to shoot, that's when you get slid
the
sideways
okay,
out of your
yeah.
seat,
Yeah.
and now you're ready to hunt down a ghost.
There you go. That sounds like a plan. Let's do that.
Are you listening to this, Disney? Haunted
Yeah.
Mansion is going to be amazing.
Oh God.
Alrighty then. So moving on after that. So apparently, the other week, HBO Max had pulled down the DC movie Birds of Prey for some particular reason, and then put it right back up. But the unfortunate thing is something went a little awry, and apparently they re-uploaded the wrong version. They actually uploaded the television edited version onto HBO Max, and actually it sat there for a little while before anyone realized there was a problem with it. So yeah, I mean, it was, once it was found out, it was taken down right away and re-edited up with the whole entire thing. But the fact that there's no explanation of why it was pulled down to begin with, but the fact that it was put back up with a television edit, and the fact that they decided to make a television edited version of Birds of Prey, it seems kind of weird. Like there's even like, it wasn't even like actually audio edited stuff. There was actually visually edited stuff, like Rosie Perez's shirt that she wears that says I shaved my balls for this, is basically says I shaved, and it's in 3 lines. It's I shaved my balls for this, right? In the 3 lines, and the middle line of my balls is blurred. So
I shaved for this?
I shaved blurred space for this, but
Fill in the gap. You could do way better
exactly,
than balls.
Exactly. Yeah. But the fact that they went in and actually digitally like eliminated just like they just censored the, anyways, it just seems like a frivolous thing. And of course, but the other thing is, it's not like they changed the words either. They put in bleeping noises to change the to censor the to censor the swearing. So it's even better that they didn't actually change.
That wasn't even that good of a movie, so I don't even know why they bothered.
Exactly. It seems like they did a lot of work for something that, I mean, it did okay. It wasn't a terrible movie. It wasn't as good as it should have been, but still, again, it's funny that a censored version of it got re-edited up, and it was out there for a while before anyone realized it.
Now, the second part of the post is the fact that Zack Snyder posted on Vero.
Yep.
Thankful for Thanksgiving, but in the background you can see a copy of Grant Morrison's Absolute Final Crisis.
Yep.
I pray to God they don't let him do it. You know, for him to do it justice, it'll be like an 18-hour movie that just, oh God, don't don't let him do it.
Again, it just seems like the task of doing, I mean, if he is going to, okay, I guess he's fine with working back with DC after the whole entire Justice League debacle. And I guess, because I don't know if it was mostly HBO Max or Warner Brothers was totally on board with the remastering, the Snyder cut of Justice League, even though the DC universe is still carrying on from the Josh Whedon version, and that's where their universe is going to continue on if it continues on from that point and all that. But still, it's kind of weird to see how anything works in DC and they still seem to make money somehow. But hey,
But the thing is the Final Crisis series is enormous in scope and scale.
oh, for sure, yes.
Like, this is not something you could do in a single 2-hour, 3-hour, even a 4-hour movie. This is something that would require like a series of movies, like 8 or 9 movies to tell it with the depth that was written. And I shudder to think, if he gets his paws on it, what it's going to turn into.
Yeah, because I can't see them even just like skimming like part of a story off of there and make it a complete story without it. Yeah, it just seems it is like
And
you
the
said,
thing is the Final Crisis series for DC is a huge pivotal event for the entire DC universe. It is like a monumental event.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
didn't
I
read
just-
that. I flipped through them when they were coming out, but what's the big takeaway? I know that's after like was the Battle of the New Gods.
Yeah, it's the Battle of the New Gods. It's just because this is where, Darkseid kills Batman. And then we learn the secret of the Omega
Yeah,
beams.
yeah,
and
yeah,
what they
exactly.
do.
Yeah.
And this is where
And the fact again that it's a dark side story too.
yeah, it's a huge Darkseid story.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's so much going on. It's something you just can't, tell like give away the essence of the plot in a simple sentence. It's such a deep layered story, which is honestly the best kind to read, because there's just so much going on, and it had so many different comics, adding to that whole story. But
And Grant Morrison always does great stories like that.
he does amazing stories, and he puts so much depth in the stories. You could read it several times and take away different things each time.
Sometimes you'd have to read it several times because you get like so far in. I'm like, wait, who is this?
Yeah, so you have to back up, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a great, great.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
something like this, trying to put it into a film, it fills me with dread. Honestly, it fills me with a whole lot of dread, because there's not a lot of setup that's been done for it, and this is the sort of story that requires, this is something you would say, oh, I'm going to put it on HBO as a 4-season miniseries, because that's how many seasons it's going to take to tell the whole story in its entirety and do it justice. But yeah, I can't see them doing it. I can't see them, saying, oh, we'll give you 4 seasons and 10 episodes a season. Go at it. You got 40 episodes, 40 hours to tell this whole story. I can't see them doing that. I can't see him sticking around long enough to do it. So when I saw that post, I was like, oh no, you got that sick feeling in the pit of your stomach. Just, oh no, this is just gonna. Because it's, again, as I said, this is such a big deal in the DC universe. This spawns so many stories. Like, it takes a whole bunch of stories and brings it down to that point, and then spawns like 3 times as many stories going out from it. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And again, an undertaking that one, or like you said, even 2 movies would not do it justice.
Exactly.
Which, yeah.
He doesn't have the best track record for doing stuff like that.
Yeah, we saw that, how that turns out.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so moving on to that, we're going to move on to something that I found quite intriguing myself. I'm actually interested in this process, actually the process of the making of this upcoming feature, that of having the extra cast being added to it is kind of neat. And we're talking about Rob Zombie working on the his updated version of the Munsters. And this particular article actually introduces the character of Igor, who was actually introduced to the actual mythos of the Munsters in a, I got to look up the date here, the 1981 movie, TV movie, The Munsters Revenge, where the character of Igor was introduced and all that sort of thing. And Rob Zombie has decided to grab one of the doctors from Doctor Who, and he's actually got the 7th Doctor, who's one of my favorite doctors. He's probably second after Tom Baker in my eyes, and that's Sylvester McCoy is going to be playing Igor. Now, if you
Sylvester McCoy is the bomb.
Sylvester McCoy is the bomb again. He is basically the Lord of the Rings. He played
A Rendergast.
yes.
Wrestling
The brown
wizard.
The brown wizard, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sort of the one with all the dirty sort of animal loving guy sort of thing. And
Yeah, the team of rabbits.
exactly. So yeah, so this looks kind of neat.
Radagast. That's it. Radagast.
Radagast. Thank you. Yes, yes, exactly. Thank you for that, Gavin, for pointing that out, Mister. I've read all the Lord of the Rings. Oh no, wait. No, wait. What was it? Lord of the Rings? Aren't you the
I
big
am
fan of Lord
hardly
of the
that
Rings?
helpful.
Yeah, no, wait. Or is he only in he's only in The Hobbit, isn't he?
Yes.
I can't remember my friggin'
He was in The Hobbit, not
he was in the Hobbit movies. That's right. He had the slay of rabbits sort of thing. Right. So
They were
but
poorly
yeah.
animated.
I
It's a
mean, when I
different
can see any of my favorite Doctor Who characters coming back and doing any other role, and the photo, which I'll post here in the video version, which I don't have available to me in this recording that we have here, but he looks really cool. And I looked at when you compare it to the original character, it's nice. And again, this looks to be like a very loving retelling of the story, which it's the kind of stuff that Rob Zombie is good at. He's good at doing those kooky horror sort of off to the left of reality sort of thing. And I believe someone has just brought it up for me. Thank you, whoever just shared that. So yeah, that's kind of cool. So there it is right there. So yay, Sylvester McCoy. Yay, Rob Zombie. Yay, the Munsters.
Yay.
Yay. All right, so moving on to the next particular article, we have another interesting, hey, let's make a live action version of this. And we've got apparently coming to Netflix is going to be Mega Man live action. So anyone have any strong opinions about this being made?
You go first,
Dumpster
Gavin.
fire.
I'll go second.
Dumpster fire crossed with a bilge fire. I cannot see how this can possibly be any good.
And again, this is not there's nothing, this is all like a pre-production. This is an idea sort of thing. As far as I know, this is just they've gotten together like people to start working on it. It's all pre-production, it's all concept. As far as I know right now, I didn't see anything else in this. They've got people involved with it. But again, Mike, what do you have to say about this?
Okay, for me, Mega Man was my favorite video game in the 80s. I think I loved the idea of the characters powering up. You know, it's like Astro Boy, but better. The whole story and mythos is amazing. And I would love to see it as a live action. But it's pretty much guaranteed to be canceled after the first season because it's going to be a giant dumpster fire. I hope it's not. I hope it's wrong, but I would like to see it.
Well, according to the article, it's going to be a movie. So it's going to be like a Sonic sort of thing. So that's probably what, as far as this particular article that I pulled this from what Cosmic Book News, I believe is what I pulled it from. But yeah, this is basically a movie.
Okay.
I mean, it's more than likely going to coincide with the 35th anniversary of Mega Man, which is next year, so 2022. 35 years, really? Wow. I mean, that's kind of neat to begin with. So obviously stuff is going to be done for sure because 35 is a big number. But yeah,
but you look at the way video game stuff is done, or even like anime stuff, or where you're trying to bring these anime robots to real life, like Battle Angel Alita, sort of almost kind of did it, but not really. Like, you know, it's just looked weird. It's the uncanny valley. Yeah, it's like Trevor Eyeballs right now. It's like I don't believe that's a real human in this podcast. It's just one of those things where if you're gonna do it, you have this massive obstacle to overcome, and you could go kind of cartoony with it. You could, like, I would like to see it done right. Chances of seeing it right, probably not. Right, so this is how it could be done wrong. No,
This is from Dead Rising, the Mega Man costume. just imagine a real person under that.
yeah, so see, and this is the kind of thing, it's like how can you turn it into something that works? And again, they did it with Sonic the Hedgehog. We talked about that in our last upcoming trailers podcast thingy. But
coming attractions, Mike. It's called coming
that's
attractions.
what it's called. Yeah, that coming attraction show. But you can see where you can start getting the designs kind of so that they work, but it's a massive challenge. and for something like Mega Man that I care about, if they butcher this, yeah, I'm gonna cancel Netflix.
Yet again.
So
You're gonna
that's
cancel
two shows that you're going to cancel
Yes,
Netflix over.
exactly.
I'm gonna
yes.
start canceling other people's Netflix. Yeah.
just
There you go. That's how you're gonna
break
do it.
into their
Okay,
home.
That
I'm
makes sense.
canceling your Netflix. Yeah, when I saw this announcement, I read through the article, and the whole time I'm just like, you get that sinking feeling in your stomach. And when they said, well, maybe they could do it like Sonic the Hedgehog, where Mega Man would be CGI surrounded by live action setting and supporting cast, and I was just like, yeah, but all the other robots he fights would have to be the same thing, and then it would just look like an over rendered video game.
And that's the thing, is in the game, all the characters look the same. Like if you look, Dr.
They
Light,
have that same general proportion setup.
yes.
So I don't have high hopes for it. I pray to God this is just like someone's whimsical hoping, and they're like, no, we can't do this, because if they end up putting a human proportion with what would be a tiny head comparison to the rest of the body sort of thing, it's just gonna be terrible, beyond terrible. And if they do a CG version of them, it's gonna look so out of place surrounded by live action people that you're just gonna be like, who's not just freaking out at this point? Like if some kid walked up to you, some of the size of the kid, but a head 3 times as big as yours, you'd be like, okay, I got to cut back on my medication because there's something wrong going on.
And again, like whoever just posted that picture, no matter what happens, cosplayers are going to do a better job of what they, no matter what they pull off. Because again, if it's going to be live action, you can't, again, like Trevor just pointed out, the characters themselves are all on the same scale. They're all the same sort of look. So if one character is an actual person in a costume, everything else has got to be a person in a costume, or at least like, okay, your robotic characters can be CG. Yes, I understand that. But any other character other than that has to be a person in a costume. And if you can't pull off that, if you can't make it understandably believable that the proportions of the giant head of the, what is it called? Gavin, what's the anime style, that the large heads and all that?
Chibi?
Yeah, exactly. If they can't pull off that idea that it's not going to be that, then it's not going to be worth it.
Yeah, that's the same problem we had with Scooby-Doo, right? To have the talking dog.
Yes.
Like really, honestly, I think Kevin Smith did the best one. I forget which movie that was. Was that Jay and Silent Bob?
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Yes.
Yeah, I think he had the best
Scooby-Doo
rendition of the
really
live
good,
action
yes.
Scooby-Doo, but
Yeah,
of course you can't have the dog talk.
So, have you guys seen Battle Angel?
Yes,
Live
the
action?
Robert Rodriguez.
live action,
yes.
That the thing that I was really worried about, because I had heard that they were going to sort of enhance the eyes,
Mhm.
make the head a little bigger, and I was just like, oh no, this could look really, really bad. But it was surprisingly good for what they were trying to accomplish, and it didn't look too much out of place with the regular human characters.
Well, the problem was they didn't have enough people enhanced like that, so that when she was standing beside a regular person, you're like, oh, but then when she was in a crowd of people, it even stood out even worse because no one else had that level of alteration to their body. So it didn't mesh well. You could argue like, hey, we have a line of people, pick out the one who doesn't look like the others. The person with the eyes bigger than your hand. So yeah, as Mike is showing on a screen share, he's showing cosplayers with regular size eyes. It works. They didn't have to like give her giant anime eyes on a living person because it just looks creepy. I think for the Mega Man movie, if they're going to make us to try to keep those chibi proportions, then the whole movie should be CG, not live. Like, don't use live action at all. Just go 100% CG.
I agree. That would be
environments, characters, the whole. So because then everyone will fit that style, like Dr. Light and everyone else. But the second you're like, oh no, we're making Dr. Light, just grab some old actor and then this
Anthony
guy
Hopkins says Dr. Light, and then
it's not going to look right. It's going to look terrible. So,
and again, that also making it computer generated is definitely going to reduce the cost that this movie is going to be, because you don't have to build sets, you don't physical sets. Well, technically You probably don't have to you just need a green screen or all that. You get friggin' whatchamacallit from Lucasfilm. You get the oh my god, why can I still not remember the name of the digital screen that they use in The Mandalorian?
Because it's late at night.
Exactly.
We didn't do our research.
Exactly. Anyways, we didn't realize we were going to go this deep on Mega Man, actually. But so moving on from Mega Man, we're going to come into something that everyone has been clamoring to hear the information about. And basically just recently, actually just prior to actually the information coming forward through natural progression in the Disney Plus series of Hawkeye, Kevin Feige confirms that the Daredevil casting is going to be coming back into the MCU, and yes, Charlie Cox is going to be our Matt Murdock. This was basically an announcement that just went down before the whole entire bit of a teaser that Uncle from Echo's past is going to be Kingpin, or at least Fisk. Whether or not they're going to call him Kingpin quite yet, they might just refer to him as Fisk, which I'm actually kind of good with as well.
Just Marvel likes to do that.
Marvel likes to do that, yes. Well, now that they have the ability to use those characters, now that the Netflix hold on those particular characters has actually dropped, we also have had speculation that, you know what, Charlie Cox, not Daredevil, but Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock is going to be showing up in the new Spider-Man movie. Is kind of neat that we get all this information all sent to us at once, sort of thing. So basically, yes, Kevin Feige hasn't stated when it's going to happen, but that Daredevil,
it will happen.
Yeah, will happen. Charlie Cox is our Daredevil. He's our Matt Murdock. He will be brought into the MCU. Now, again, not when, just that he is going to be. And the speculation is, hey, next week, Spider-Man No Way Home. But again, there's so much happening in that movie. I highly doubt. At this point, I highly doubt that they're going to drop. Unfortunately, they're not going to give us a Charlie Cox in this. But
it would be so easy to.
Maybe as
his arm is basically already in there.
Oh yeah.
Maybe as an end credit, maybe.
Could be an end credit, but you know what? I would really love to see Charlie Cox show up in She-Hulk.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
especially if she's
it's a legal based story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's more of a chance that we are going to see Vincent D'Onofrio in Hawkeye than we are going to see Charlie Cox in Spider-Man.
I kind of want to see Charlie Cox in She-Hulk figuring out Jennifer Walters as She-Hulk by her scent.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that idea. That's pretty cool.
You know, he's sitting there at the table and you do a close of the nose and they do like the air going into his nose.
Yep.
And he's like, and you can see him processing and say something effective, just like She-Hulk.
Well, there's
sorry, go ahead.
Go, Gavin.
I'm hoping that that this incarnate, because he's basically said this is not going to be the same Daredevil that you saw in Netflix. It is Daredevil, who's going to be played by Charlie Cox, but it's going to be a different Daredevil than you're used to. So my hope here is that they're steering away from the sound-based senses that he seemed to have in the Netflix, or that weird sound-based echolocation thing he had in the Ben Affleck version. I'm hoping that they kind of use the red Daredevil vision effect when we see it from his point of view. Everything's just that Daredevil red sort of effect,
which is like a visual echolocation. But
it is.
I wanted to see that in the Netflix one as well.
Yeah, for
just
sure,
seeing the circles going out and the body.
Well,
shapes.
the other thing that we're definitely going to be getting is when it comes to Fisk, we're not going to be having a slamming the door, decapitating a guy Fisk. The MCU Fisk is not going to be that. It's going to be the same actor, but he's definitely not going to be that Fisk. That's that. Which also means that Charlie Cox's Daredevil is going to be a little more toned down and all that. But because everyone's all kicky punchy in the MCU anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope they play up more of his senses, because for Daredevil, it's just not his hearing that's ramped up. It's all his senses are ramped up. So stuff like, he can read a newspaper by running, because he can feel the raised print on a newspaper. So he can read it, and people are like, oh, I didn't know it was in Braille. And it's like, oh, well, of course it's in Braille. No, it's not. So stuff like that. So he can, sense, all his other senses are so heightened. It's not just echolocation from his ears. So, yeah.
And again, we're also being introduced to the character of Echo. Be kind of neat, because they're all in the same area as well. So yeah, that's.
Damn you, New York.
Yep. And now what we've got coming up next for the articles and all that is the unfortunate demise of yet another Netflix series. After the first season, Netflix has decided to cancel Cowboy Bebop. So apparently what has happened is the viewership basically dropped off after the first 2 or 3 weeks, and it dropped off so dramatically that Netflix has done the same old Netflix. Look, if people aren't going to stick around to watch this anymore, or continuous rewatch and all that, it's unfortunate. I was enjoying the series. I finally finished the first season and all that. It's enjoyable. It's fun. The characters work well together. It's got an amazing live action anime feel to it and all that. Again, I'm not as steeped in the lore, and I think that might be what has hurt this particular thing, is those that are in the know have vocally spoken up like, no, this isn't this. Why did you do this? This isn't that good. I mean, again, I don't know any better. I enjoyed it. Again, the way we were talking last week, if I go back and watch the anime now, I'll go like, oh, I can see what everyone had to do. But you know what? I enjoyed the live action to begin with. So it's not like I'm going to hate the live action all of a sudden, unless something drastically went wrong. Like, oh no, I do not like that at all anymore. But yeah, so it looks like Netflix has just decided to do that, and because they have so much on their plate that, you know what, this isn't going to be worth they're going back into the pulling out a second season, which is unfortunate, because I would have liked to have seen more, because again, the cast is fantastic. Those 3 main characters are fantastic, and it was a fun time. But anyone else got something to say about this?
I'm sad.
Wait to watch the anime.
Well, don't everyone talk at one time. There you go.
Okay, let's try that again.
And the sound of silence kills us all. I was enjoying the series. I know that there had quite a few deviations from the animated series, but honestly, I didn't mind. I enjoy both. I enjoy both the anime series and the live action. I like how the live action was taking cues from the anime and putting their own twist on it. I was having fun. I liked the casting. I think was great. I wanted to see where they were going to go, and they had just finally introduced the hacker, and then have the legs cut up from under him. And the thing is the problem is, I think, is the metrics they were using to judge it. They're saying, like, after the first week, viewership dropped by 60%. Well, of course, because you dropped all the episodes on the platform at once. If this had been released episodically, like every week a new episode, viewership would have stayed. But if you drop everything on the first day, don't expect people to stick around the next week, because they just binged it. They're done. They're not going to like, ooh, I binged it. Let's binge it again. And let's keep binging it for a couple of weeks. It's just not going to do that. And then the article also talked about how the live action that failed to draw viewers away were such titles as Dragon Ball Evolution, which really had nothing to do with Dragon Ball, Ghost in the Shell, which was a terrible movie, Death Note, which was just a sad attempt it felt like they didn't even understand what the anime was or what it was trying to say. And then they're saying, well, the biggest success has been Battle Angelina, which pulled in like 320 million, internationally, but only 85 domestically. Well, again, you're saying, oh, I'm going to compare this football to, I don't know, a pizza. Like, it's not quite the same thing. You can't expect the same sort of numbers, a movie versus an episodic show. Like, that was the problem. And I think it's a case of Netflix was like, oh, didn't get the success we wanted, cancel it. And because they've got so many projects on their slate, they have that power to just say, if it's not successful in the first week, we're just going to cancel it. And which is unfortunate, because I think the show had a promising future.
I would like to know the behind the scenes on that, because there's so much stuff that was done right and true to the anime, and so much that veered off course. And I want to know where that happened. Like, who thought that they could do better than an anime series that has almost 100% score? As you know, like, if it's that perfect, why change it? Stick to it. Like, don't try and put your own agenda into it. Don't think you can tell the story better, because everybody already loves it. So I'd like that behind the scenes. But as for myself, I'm ready to watch the anime. I will go back to this movie to watch the special effects and the way the actors played the role, but I'm looking forward to watching the anime series, and so is the whole family. Gavin?
I'm sad that they decided to do the standard Netflix and kill. I thought it was rather well acted. I mean, the visuals were great. They could have basically relied on people basically, discovering it as sort of a hidden treasure, or that sort of thing. I think that was a little hasty to pull it, or like after the first couple of weeks of its release.
Yeah, because you never know. You never know if this thing has legs. You might find a secondary audience, but again, you never know. If it suddenly spikes for some strange reason, you never know. You might Netflix might return to this
And cancel it.
Yeah, uncancel.
Well, I think the problem is with we just went through a quarantine where people were stuck at home and didn't have a whole lot to do, or they'd run out of things that they want to do, so they started binging strange series, like anything that was on Netflix. Like, oh, screw it, don't have anything else to do with my time, let's binge it. So a lot of shows had artificially inflated viewing numbers, and I think the problem is now people are back to work. People are having less time to like binge a series or re-binge a series over and over again. That's where viewership will drop off, especially, again, as I said, you drop all the episodes on a single day, people are going to binge it and be done, because now they can go to the office and talk with their friends. Oh, did you see that? Yeah, I saw that. So there's no reason for them to go back and watch it again unless there was something they missed. But it almost feels like the executives at Netflix are still feeling like they should be getting the same sort of reaction numbers that they were getting while people were quarantined at home. Well, that time has passed.
Why aren't you all people working from home still?
Exactly. Why aren't you people rewatching series over and over and over again while waiting for new content? Because theaters are opening, they're going back to work. There's new avenues of entertainment and stuff that's taking their time. So I think this is just a lot of short-sightedness on the part of Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that wraps up about the news articles that we've culminated over the past week or two and all that. Interesting the way things are going in the geekdom that we live in and all that. So we're just going to move on to something else about what we're currently, other than the normal and all that, that we're involved with, what we're watching, what we're reading, what we're collecting, what we're buying and all that sort of thing. I believe Gavin's got something that he has to point out, which is actually something that I myself have just recently realized that I have to get back into it. And I believe, Gavin, you started to watch the first episode of season 6 and the final season of it's Amazon Prime, is it not?
That's right.
Yes, and that is of The Expanse, yes. So how was the first, spoilery as you want.
It's a bit bittersweet for me because two things. One is it is the final season, so essentially they're going to have to cram so much story to try and wrap this up, and this episode, unfortunately, is somewhat indicative of it. There feels like there's a lot of stuff going on that they probably could have done over the course of another season at least. Like seems to be like a lot of forced character interactions, like conflict out of character for certain characters. The biggest thing that hit for me was Kaz Anvar as Alex being killed off last season. There was I'm not sure what you guys know about the controversy surrounding him at the time. Was he had been sending some rather racy
Inappropriate.
texts. Yeah, inappropriate texts to
Yes.
underage teenagers.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it bit him in the ass. And well, yeah, he's they decided to let him go. And well, his lack of presence there is palpable. Like in terms of characters, Kaz was one of the best characters in my opinion as Alex. He just portrayed. He was one of the characters from the Expanse books that felt exactly what I pictured in my head when I read about the character in my mind. I read the series like 3 times now so far, and this is like Kaz Anvar was Alex, and he had to go fuck things up by fucking things up the way he did. So now, unfortunately, it leaves the everyone else kind of picking up the slack. They had Naomi being the pilot. She was not. She was not bad. The conflict that I was talking about, there was a bit of conflict between Amos and her. It just felt forced. The conversations they were having, it just felt like she was angry at him for no reason. He was angry at her for no reason. It just didn't make sense with where they were in the story. So I'm going to watch the whole thing, but I'm feeling like they're just going to be cramming far too much in here. I think it's going to go the same way as like with the last couple of Batman films. They would try to cram too many villains in, kind of thing. There's just too many things to keep track of, and it's going to be. I think this is going to be the same thing. The effects were phenomenal as always. I mean, space combat was just felt guttural. But I'm sad. I'm sad. This is the end of the series.
The nice thing about the series is it is so far rewatchable, very, very much so. I mean, your main cast sticks around for a good point, but a lot of the very well fleshed out secondary characters, like Thomas Jane is introduced in the first season, and he's basically a secondary storyline before the 2 storylines merge. And you get to know him as this like detective. It's a detective noir story in a sci-fi story. And once his storyline meets up with the rest of the space cast storylines, who are like renegades sort of thing and all that.
Legitimate salvage.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, it's so compelling, but a bit of a spoiler. Thomas Jane doesn't live past the 2nd season. Like he is into
first season.
Sorry?
He dies first season.
Oh, first season. Yes, he doesn't make it to the 2nd season. Yeah, he dies in first season because it's just the universe the way it is, which is kind of cool.
But he is in 2nd season.
That's true. I forgot about that. He is actually in 2nd season. Yes, because good old flashbacks and video recordings and whatnot. But again, it's a very rich universe. I believe the original creators tried to create an actual role-playing game to make it, and then it failed, and then they decided, well, all this information we have about this universe, let's write a novel, and that's where the series of books came from. And then we've got this now 6th season basically TV series out and all that. And again, from the get-go, it is very rich. The beginning of the story is very thick with there's not very much exposition in the beginning. You learn everything very naturally. You hear words that later on get
world
explained.
building is
perfect. The world building, yes, the world building is very, very beautifully done, and it's a very intriguing series. And like I said, I'm up to watching the 3rd season, and I just dropped off because it was just so much on the plate, and the fact that we now know this is the final 6th season. I'm definitely going to get back into it and all that. But yeah, it's a very enjoyable series, that is for sure. And it's gotten an amazing following too, which basically resurrected the whole entire thing, because I don't believe it was Amazon all along. Is that
It's a
correct?
Sci-Fi Channel, I
It
think.
was a Sci-Fi Channel. That's it. Sci-Fi. Good old Sci-Fi. Which basically ended up dropping it after the third season. Yeah, after the third season. Thank you for the clue there, Egon. The third season, and then Amazon picked it up. Once they started to air it, it just skyrocketed. So they put money into a fourth, fifth, and now sixth season. Again, still being filmed in the same location. It is a Toronto-based production and all that, which is kind of neat. But it's also kind of neat that it doesn't have the look of your typical Canadian production. It is top of the line. It's a very worldly cast. I mean, you do have your characters that you do recognize. Oh, I recognize that guy from CBC and all those other shows that we watch on Canadian television. But again, there's a lot of other actors that you don't actually see. Like I said, Thomas Jane is like a main character in the first season and all that. So it's kind of neat. We have like Australian actors. We have one of my favorites is what is her name? The woman with the very deep gravelly voice. Anyways, I can't remember what her name is and all that. She's been in all sorts of things and all that. But it's just a fantastic cast, and it's a very enjoyable watch, which is, and again, kind of sad that it ends the way it does. And unfortunately, some characters that had to leave the series, it's also an unfortunate situation, but that's what you got. So you guys watch it at all?
I watched the first season.
Only the first season? Okay. And
Haven't
Mike, I
seen
take it none at all. Yes.
I
was
might
just
have seen
difficult to
one
get
or
down
two
there.
episodes, but I can't remember if that was this one or a different show.
Right. Again, there's
Yeah.
so much out there. And again, this is a series that has been running for a while. There's a chance that you probably haven't caught up. But hey, now that you know you've got an end time, you know that you're sitting down, that you're not going to be Netflixed out of this, because they did know it was going to be a sixth season, and they are going to wrap up what they can, because again,
There's 3 more books that could have been additional seasons, and they're gonna. My theory right now is they're kind of gonna try to cram as much as they can into this last season, and I think this is where they're gonna piss off a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, you never know. I mean, Amazon might figure out, because Amazon's doing pretty good with their particular series. Again, this is now an Amazon production, so they're the one flipping the bill. So they might realize, okay, you know what, we can't do 3 more books. Let's just limit it to, let's wrap up the stories that we have now. So, but anyways. So that being said, we're gonna go on to our next little segment and all that, and that's going to be our defending your role. And so basically what this is we've had a couple of these before, and what it is we are given a subject matter that gets cut into subsections and all that. Our very first one was defend your role, the best Batman. So we were given our 6 Batman to choose from. We each individually rolled a die, and whichever number we ended up on, that's the Batman we had to defend. The one after that was Universal Monsters. We had to defend which particular role that we got was the best Universal Monster. This time, we are going to be doing the non-Christmas Christmas movie. And to give you the list, basically, here's the order they are. The first movie is The Ref. The second movie is Gremlins. The third movie is Die Hard. Then we got Lethal Weapon as the fourth movie. Fifth movie is Batman Returns. And the sixth movie is Trading Places. So when we all rolled our individual rolls, here's what we ended up with. With the number 1, it was Mike. Mike, defend your role.
All right, the movie, The Ref. So this came out in 1994, and I remember seeing this one in theaters, and it was fun because I didn't know what to expect, but I was a big fan of Dennis Leary at the time. And the best way to break this down so that you understand it is it's basically the sequel to Home Alone. So it's Kevin has been hanging out with all these criminals all his life and becomes a criminal himself. So he is now going around robbing all the rich folks because he's absolutely pissed off. And it's also like Die Hard, because it's these people trapped in the building and they have to escape from these crazy criminals that are trying to rob them. So you're basically taking Home Alone and Die Hard and making one movie, and it is the greatest movie ever because it's like chocolate and bacon. Who doesn't like chocolate and bacon? You put together, you have chocolate covered bacon, and it's the best thing. So don't knock it until you've tried it. Okay? It's great. And this is also like the marriage ref. So basically all the concepts in this story, Seinfeld just ripped them off. So you have Dennis Leary as basically a marriage counselor, essentially, he's trying to rob them. But he's got these people tied up in a house, and their son is basically young Bruce Willis. Okay? He's John McClane. He's the little kid who gets tied up because his parents are a bunch of jerks, and he has to break out of the house, and eventually he learns how life works. He's kind of like a hard-boiled detective at this point. I mean, he helps the criminal get away, but he was a good guy. But that trains him for later in life when he gets locked up in a big building. One thing about this movie is it starts off, and it's exactly like a John Hughes film. And so the opening shot, it gets you right into that vibe and that era. And the cast that's in this movie, you have Captain George Stacy from Spider-Man. You have Commissioner Gordon from Batman. And you have Lex Luthor. And for the psychiatrist, you have B.D. Wong from Special Victims Unit. I mean, how great of a cast is that? You haven't seen a cast that great since the Star Wars Holiday Special. So basically, when Dennis Leary or older Kevin is robbing the first building, it's kind of fun that he falls into a trap that he would have created for the criminals back in his original movies for Home Alone. That's kind of fun. Falls through the trap door, gets sprayed with cat piss, has to get away from a dog. And then when he finally realizes that his getaway car is gone, he has to take a couple hostage. And the line in there is, "Great, I hijacked my fucking parents," which, you could see if it was an older Kevin. He's like, yeah, these are like the parents he grew up with. So anyways, the point of the story is, so the character Lloyd, who is essentially the Kevin from Home Alone, he has to try and figure out a way to take this hostage couple who have all these marital problems and try and figure out how is he going to get out of that house and get away so he can, take off with the loot that he stole. And meanwhile, all the cops in town are out looking for him, which are essentially the cops from Fargo. And we've already established that Fargo is one of the greatest movies of all time. So I had to have the cops from Fargo after old Kevin, who's robbing these people. It's brilliant. Now, I think there's only a couple of things that are missing from this to make it the perfect Christmas movie. And is that we don't have Alan Rickman falling off a building. We don't have a John Candy cameo. And we don't have a swimming pool fantasy sequence. If we had those things, this would be the greatest movie of all time. Now, this isn't a movie to watch with the kids, but it's a great one to watch with the wife, because you can get all your issues out and all the pent-up stress and agony of the entire year. You can work. It's basically like marriage counseling. So if you watch this with your wife at Christmas, you'll have a happy Christmas, and you might just save your marriage. And that's why I think this is the greatest non-Christmas movie ever.
All right, I'll admit to you, it is on the regular rewatch at Christmas time. The ref is, again, also like a movie that sticks into your favorite movies. It is so quotable. And, well, again, yes, Dennis Leary, but Dennis Leary is not the only one that is so quotable in this movie. Kristen Baranski, who plays the sister, Kevin Spacey's sister that comes along, she is so great. The mother is so fantastic, and just it's just such a fun movie to watch. Yes. And again, you can you could sort of also do this movie without the element of Christmas, but again, it is what makes it a very good Christmas movie.
Yeah, the two main points that really force it into a Christmas movie is the drunken Santa, which also provides the costume for the escape, and the whole family get together, which ties into the presents and everything else. So like those two holiday elements really lock it into the season. But yeah, aside from that, it could be any other holiday.
All right. So with a number 2 role, we've got Mr. Trevor, and he's going to be defending his role.
All right, so let's begin. Movie came out in 1984. It is Gremlins. Let's take it right from the top. This movie was written by Chris Columbus. If you don't know who he is, he's the guy that directed Home Alone. He's the guy that directed Mrs. Doubtfire. He directed Harry Potter 1 and 2. At the time he wrote this film, he was just an up-and-coming writer. This was before he got the chance to be the director. So it was directed by Joe Dante. If you don't know who Joe Dante is, he directed The Howling. He directed Explorers. He directed The Burbs. He even directed the sequel to this movie, Gremlins 2. Very busy guy. Now, it stars Zach Galligan in his very first role, Phoebe Cates, Hoyt Axton, Corey Feldman, and then a cast of just great secondary actors. Even Judge Reinhold, like from Beverly Hills Cop. And it wasn't just the people starring, it was the cameos in this. Touch on them a little bit. This movie was made for $11 million. This movie made $212 million. If you wanted to adjust it for inflation, that'd be about $416 million. Now, 1984 was a big year for films because we had Beverly Hills Cop, Ghostbusters, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. This movie came in number 4. It was ahead of The Karate Kid and Police Academy, even Footloose. So it's a pretty rarefied air that this movie exists in. So the story involves about it's narrated an amazing open narration by Hoyt Axton. You know, the guy's a country and western singer. He's passed away, but amazing voice, very soothing voice. He's a struggling inventor. And he comes upon a antique store in Chinatown. He's looking for a Christmas gift for his son. And he comes across this tiny little creature, a little mugwai, and he has to have it, but the owner of the shop refuses to sell it because he says no one's ready for a mugwai. The shop owner's grandson ends up selling the mugwai to the inventor without, with his against his grandfather's wishes. And says there's 3 rules for owning a mugwai. You have to keep them away from bright light. Sunlight will kill it. Can't come in contact with water. You can't bathe it. You don't give it water to drink. No water whatsoever. And most importantly, never ever feed it after midnight. And they're like, sure, okay. So now he returns to Kingston Falls, which ironically is the same set they shot Back to the Future on, because it's Universal backlot. And we find, his son, Billy, who works at a bank, is a struggling artist, loves this little thing who he calls Gizmo. And at some point, Gizmo gets wet. And we find out what happens when it gets wet. These little hairy little bubbles pop off his back, and 5 new mugwai are created. But they have a different personality. And they end up tricking Billy into feeding them after midnight by chewing off the cord of his alarm clock. He feeds them. They enter a cocoon stage and come out as the Gremlins. Scaly skin, scary as hell, but not so scary that little kids would be terrified of it. How I know is because I just recently rewatched this film with my family, and my 2 daughters loved it. So Billy has a love interest who works at the bank. Kate, who he is trying to develop a relationship with, but at the same time, he's a little oblivious to her. And so when the Gremlins start coming out, they, wreak havoc as Gremlins do. His mom, when attacked in the kitchen, manages to take out 3 of them by herself. Go mom. But the leader of these new Gremlins manages to get to the YMCA, hops into a pool, and we know when you get them wet, they just multiply. So soon there are hundreds of Gremlins, and they just attack the town. culminates into they're to kind of pacify them. They end up going into a movie theater and watching, of all films, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And Billy manages to trap them in the theater, blow up the theater, and thinking he got them all, and turns out their leader, Stripe, was getting candy at another store, at a department store. There's a bit of a fight, which was actually pretty nice. And Stripe's about to hop into a water fountain to start it all over again. And Gizmo manages to open some shutters, bathe Stripe in a whole lot of sunlight, kills him. Everything's done, everything's back to normal. And then Mr. Wing, the ancient Chinese gentleman from the beginning, shows up to reclaim Gizmo, saying that the world is not ready for Mugwise. And so they, he says to Billy that someday he might be ready because he understands them, and then he leaves. Now that's basically the movie in a nutshell, but there's so much going on in that film. So his dad's an inventor. He has the bathroom buddy that he's trying to sell. He's like a kind of a crackpot inventor. He has these great ideas. He makes these inventions, and more often than not, they don't work as advertised. But while he's at an inventors convention, we have Steven Spielberg goes by in a wheelchair. Jerry Goldsmith, the guy who came up with the music for this film, which, by the way, has an amazing theme. He's talking on the phone. We have Robbie the robot go by, but one of my favorite cameos in the background when he's talking to his son on the phone, you see the original time machine from the movie The Time Machine, and the back is spinning up, and the very next shot, it's gone, and people are like, where'd it go? It's like an empty space there. So there's a working time machine in this film, people. It's better than Back to the Future. But there's also, at one point, Billy goes to a bar where his girlfriend, or soon-to-be girlfriend's working, and who is he talking to? But to Chuck Jones. Chuck Jones is in this film. It's such a great little cameo. And there is, I'd have to say, the best anti-Christmas story told by a character about why they hate Christmas. And it's Kate says she hates Christmas, and he's like, why? And she's like, you hate any other holiday and people don't care. You hate Christmas, and you're like the worst person in the world. So she tells a story of how she and her mother were waiting for their father to come home, and his normal time that he would arrive comes and goes. No, nothing. They call the police search, don't find him. And a couple days later, she goes to light a fire in the fireplace, and there's this horrible smell. And the fire department pulls her dead father, dressed in a Santa Claus outfit, out of the chimney. He had started to climb down the chimney with a bunch of presents to surprise his daughter, and he slipped and broke his neck. Died.
That's what makes this not a Christmas movie.
I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my daughters and the horrified expressions on their faces, but they still managed to get through it. There were little touches like that, is this a Christmas? This movie could have taken place at any time in the year. Billy's Christmas gift of Gizmo could have been a birthday gift at any time of the year. But there are some elements about they needed to take place in winter because, like, Billy's car won't start because it's too cold, because it's a original Volkswagen Beetle, and those things don't like to start in any temperature near freezing. There's a sequence where he's walking through the town square, and you see a film marquee for A Boy's Life and Watch the Skies. And for anyone who knows films, A Boy's Life was the original title of E.T., and Watch the Skies was the original title of Close Encounters. And what makes it even more fun is the fact that Steven Spielberg has a cameo in this movie, and it was one of the executive producers on this movie. So it was a nice little touch there for people who follow films and film lore. Seeing those on the marquee was a nice little touch. But yeah, as I said, this movie doesn't have to be a Christmas movie. It just happens to take place during the month of December, but it could have taken place in November. It could have taken place in January. Christmas is not the whole movie. It's not like, the Santa Claus, where it's all about Santa. It just happens to take place in the month of December. So this is what makes it a perfect non-Christmas movie, but it just happens to take place during Christmas, because the fact that it's Christmas is not what the story hinges on. Now, as I said, I just rewatched this film, and my daughter's watched for the first time, and my youngest daughter she's willing to negotiate for a gizmo, like a real one. She's ready to wheel and deal to get a gizmo. She wants one that bad, which I find kind of funny. But at the same time, this movie holds up to the test of time, like very easily stands up to the test of time. It's fun to watch for the family. I found watching it as an adult, I got a different take on it than when I watched it as a kid. I mean, as I said, this movie came out in 1984. I was 11. I saw this movie in theaters. Initially, I had like a bit of a scared reaction, but Gizmo's that cute of a creature who kind of looks like the child from The Mandalorian. There's a lot of influence there, but watching it as a kid and watching it as an adult, it is a different experience. And watching it as a parent is a hugely different experience, but all positive. So that's why I think this movie is the best Christmas movie that you can watch every year when the holidays come.
And I will have to say that because we were doing this defending your role, and this came up on the list, it made me think, holy crap, I don't think I've ever shown my kids this movie. So we sat down and watched it last night, and everybody absolutely loved it. All the girls were cheering when mom takes down 3 of the 5 gremlins right at the start. It's like, oh my god, she's absolutely savage. And I'm like, wait, how did this end again? And then of course it multiplies into thousands. It's like, oh right, there come the rest of them. And of course my younger boys, they wanted a little gremlin for Christmas now.
I was also in the same boat, but unfortunately just ran out of time to watch it. But I'm pretty sure I will be showing this to my daughter as well. And I'm pretty sure she will also be asking for a gizmo, which thankfully nowadays they're actually not that hard to get. I mean, I
was going to a knockoff Furby. So
yeah, exactly. But I mean, you can now find a gizmo nowadays easily enough, because Mezco makes quite a few different versions. There's also different other gremlins as well. You also can get crap loads of Gremlins 2 Gremlins and all that. Seeing they were so varied with their experiments and all that with that particular one. But that's not that movie, that's this movie. And yes, Gremlins 2, Gremlins, great movie. Yes, I also saw it when it originally came out in the theater, and it was kind of neat because at the time you only got to see a movie maybe once, maybe twice if it was good enough or it was slow enough and all that. But I like the fact that there was a difference between the theatrical version and the home video version, especially in the movie theater version where the movie breaks down and all that. Because if I'm not mistaken, in the original movie theatrical version, when the movie breaks down, Hulk Hogan is there to tell the Gremlins to get the movie back on. And I believe it's the video version has a Leonard Maltin cameo that does the whole entire sequence where you get back, which is kind of a neat thing to actually see that they put the extra effort into a home video version, which was kind of neat. So yeah. All right, so I'm coming up number 4 myself. So I am going to defend my role of Lethal Weapon. So basically, at this point, it's sort of passé to say that, point out that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And everyone knows that. It's just kind of thing that's become a fact at this point. So, you know what? If any of us had gotten Die Hard, which, spoiler alert, we didn't, because I'm number 4, and we all know that Die Hard was number 3. So the good thing is we don't have an automatic winner in this one. So we all now actually have to work at this. However, there are several other classic films which you would say either one happened to take place during Christmas time, or 2 is a bona fide Christmas movie. Now, that's what we are doing. We are doing movies that take place during the Christmas time. It's not actually set as an actual, there's no holiday cheer sort of thing. It's not Christmas Vacation. It's not Scrooged. It's not that sort of thing. What I am doing is I am talking about Lethal Weapon, and this is directed by Richard Donner. And as Trevor has pointed out, yes, if you don't know who Richard Donner is, Superman 2. Goonies. So there, the list goes on. You know the type of movie if you know the name Richard Donner. It's written by Shane Black, so this is also another well-known writer and all that. And again, in the geek sphere, we got Predator, we've got Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, we've got all sorts of other things and all that. And this is again, in the realm, well, he sort of made more of a comeback that he's gotten back into the better graces and all that. We got a Mel Gibson and we got a Danny Glover. This particular movie was made in 1987. Now, also, March 6th was when it was released, and on a budget of $15 million, which seems like a very small budget for this particular movie. And it pulled in at the time $120 million domestically. Now, the other thing is, it was also 1987, ran up against other movies such as, Beverly Hills Cop, Platoon, Fatal Attraction, The Untouchables, RoboCop, and a previously mentioned Predator, and also, a little movie called Dirty Dancing. So it was quite the box office year and all that. And this one relatively in the top 10 at the end of it and all. Now, Lethal Weapon is one movie that has been debated whether or not it is actually a Christmas movie, or is it Christmassy enough to consider it being part of this list. So we start at the beginning with the opening, where we hear, after we get the giant Warner Brothers Presents logo, the iconic typeface and all that, we hear the first jingles of Jingle Bell Rock. So there you go. We're starting off right off, opening sequence. We got Christmas music. This is a Christmas movie. From there, we get the sequence of a camera shot of a penthouse window, which reveals a drugged up naked woman. So hey, we're starting off with some nudity at the beginning of the movie. All right. And she's singing along to Christmas music, that the music that we heard as atmosphere is now actually in the movie itself, sort of thing. And then she basically does a nosedive off the balcony and lands on a parked car below. Yeah. And so there you go. There's your opening. There's your opening sequence of this thing. Starts off with Christmas music, and then we have a death. We then get Danny Glover as our Roger Murdoch, joyfully playing with his family while he's in the bathtub getting ready for his day. And the juxtaposition is a perfect supplementation of the high and lows of the Christmas expectations that they don't know. So what is funny is that reportedly Jingle Bell Rock wasn't the initial choice for the opening. Instead, we had the badass Eric Clapton banger that was set a darker, more sinister mood. However, the better angels prevailed, and we got an instant signifier that this movie was about Christmas. So it's nice that they decided, you know what? No, let's change up the tune. Let's make it Christmas. So basically. And for anyone who has said that Christmas movies have to have sappy and Hallmark Channel love stories, I'd argue that depression and suicide are absolutely Christmas themes. I mean, just look at one of the biggest Christmas movies out there, the seminal friggin' It's a Wonderful Life. The main character is contemplating suicide at the beginning of that movie and all that, and It's a Wonderful Life. It is on everyone's list of Christmas movies to watch. So that's what is another tribute to why Lethal Weapon is that, because we know that Mel Gibson's character, when we're introduced to him, he is about to commit suicide. He is about to blow his own brains out and all that. So it's the juxtaposition between the happy, perfect life that Danny Glover's family is having to Mel Gibson's Martin Riggs, where he's as he's watching cartoons, which is kind of neat, about to blow his brains out. So for many Christmases, it's pretty much divided between these two extremes. And Lethal Weapon does a great job of building them out before ultimately pairing the two together odd couples partnering off of Riggs and Murtaugh. Another not so heartwarming theme in many Christmas movies is a frosty ghost of Christmas past, which this has. While Christmas is meant to be wholly good and lovely, you can't actually block out all of its sins, traumas, and unworldly doings of the past. For Lethal Weapon, it's like to present that even more than Riggs bemoaning the loss of his wife, the Christmas ghost is actually the shared trauma of the Vietnam War. So, I mean, it's a bit odd watching Lethal Weapon, which came out in 1987, than today. Its release is actually closer to the end of the Vietnam War than we are today watching the movie. And while I wouldn't categorize this as a film as a war movie, this film is a war movie by any stretch of the genre. It's the underbelly of Vietnam is a huge part of both the plot and for the two main characters. From Riggs's time as a highly skilled assassin who thought of his killing ability as the only thing that he's ever really good at, to Murtaugh's feeling of a debt owed to a man who took a bayonet in the lungs to save him, and eventually to the nefarious heroin smuggling shadow company behind the murders and the war is still pretty much a haunting and real part of the ghost story. So while Lethal Weapon tackles some much heavier issues than the mainstream blockbuster might have attempted at the time, the film is still overall quite joyful and light. The majority of the Christmassy cheer comes from the budding partnership between Riggs and Murtaugh, as they truly become fast friends quite early in the film. From Murtaugh inviting Riggs into his home for dinner, to the timely buddy copying it up together, and they bond between the two is truly heartwarming, as you just know that they will have each other's backs when the real shit will eventually hit the fan later. And like It's a Wonderful Life, the and every other Christmas and action movie pretty much, we get the unlikeliest of miracle endings. Murtaugh ices the bad guy McAllister, and Riggs gets to KO Jake Busey's Mr. Joda. The girl is saved and apparently not psychologically scarred in the least. And Viola, Riggs is no longer suicidal. In what might have been more miracle-ish, an early draft of Shane Black's version of the movie actually had a bigger ending chase scene with helicopters and tractor trailer truck full of cocaine exploding over Hollywood Hills with cocaine snowing on the Hollywood sign, which have the very beautiful ultimate actiony Christmas movie miracle of them all. So it's kind of neat that at one point the Christmas movie was even more Christmassy with snowfall at the end of the movie, sort of thing. So
I want to see that cut.
Yeah, I know that sounds like a fantastic. When I found that out, I'm like, oh my god, that would be fantastic. But so with its parallels to actual Christmas movies, that is the reason that Lethal Weapon is the most Christmassy, non-Christmassy movie out there. All right, so moving on to the next role, and that is going to be the number 5, and that is going to be Gavin. Defend your role.
Well, I think mine is probably going to be along the same lines as my previous ones, with a completely different tack than yours and everyone else's. So, why is Tim Burton's Batman's Return the best non-Christmas Christmas movie? I give you the only point that matters. Michael Keaton's Batman and Christmas in the same movie. I rest my case, Your Honor. All joking aside, it opens on Christmas Eve. The haunting Danny Elfman's incredible orchestrated soundtrack of the birth of Oswald Cobblepot being abandoned by his parents. Almost every scene has some kind of Christmas decorations or some hint at the time of year, such as a flurry of snow or the merest hint of some sort of decoration. What represents Christmas more than giant gift-wrapped presents? The homicidal, murderous contents are possibly the only downside of such a beautiful gift to Gotham City. What does one think when they think of snow and ice? If it's not penguins, might I suggest therapy? Might the Penguin possibly be the most Christmas adjacent villain in the entire Batman Rogue Gallery? I say yes. And what better Christmas story arc could there be than of a man redeeming himself to the city and looking for his parents? Oswald Cobblepot is to Tiny Tim as Batman is to Scrooge, as long as you don't think too hard on that. Sociopathic and homicidal tendencies aside, and the drooling. I mean, what is that black stuff that keeps coming out of him? The joy of watching Batman kicking circus sideshow exhibit ass is a Christmas present in of itself. Such a joy to watch. And that scene with the bat streaming out of the Christmas tree, it's Christmas in the Burbage family home all over again. Well, not really, but the visuals were amazing. And what about Catwoman? As the Penguin says, she's Beauty and the Beast in one pretty Christmas package. Easily one of the best transformations of an overworked assistant to Batman villain. A fantastic scene I enjoyed, the masquerade ball scene where we see everyone in masks, yet Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle aren't wearing one, implying that they are their masks. Perhaps a bit devoid of Christmas cheer, but a poignant scene nonetheless. And of course, the thought of penguins waddling with Christmas-colored rockets strapped to them is really what Christmas is all about, isn't it? Wreaking havoc across Gotham, giving presents to all the good people of Gotham, lethality aside, it's the thought that counts. And there you have it. Batman Returns. It's truly the most Christmas of non-Christmas movies.
All right. Okay.
And scene.
Yeah. And scene. And scene. All right. Okay. That was pretty good. So yeah, and again, Trading Places was the number 6 and nobody got that. So basically Die Hard and Trading Places go undefended. So what I'd also like to point out is if you take the list of when these actually movies were released, none of them were released in Christmas time. These are all spring summer movies. We got March 9th with The Ref. We got August 30th, which is the latest in the year for Gremlins. July 15th, right smack dab in the middle of your summer time watching, was Die Hard. Lethal Weapon was on March 6th. And then we got Batman Returns, which was June 19th. And then Trading Places, which was June 8th. So
definitely none of them were Christmas movies.
None of them are really actually released Christmas time. Yes. I mean, I guess technically March 6th might be closest to Christmas. But
you're kind of late.
Really. It's oh no, it's
that's like that Amazon purchase that's going to come in January. No, March. Yeah,
March. Yeah, exactly. But again, Trevor's closest at the August 30th. August, September, October, November, December.
4 months.
Yeah, exactly.
Better than nothing. I'm going to say as a side note, when I saw Batman Returns in the theater, I was in Smith Falls visiting my brother. I fell asleep in the theater.
Oh no! And why is that?
I don't know. And it wasn't like it was like a late night showing. It was like mid-afternoon. It was just that movie was so slow paced.
I think it's just the snow. I think you just went into hibernation mode. You're like,
I don't know, but
it's not summer
I remember
anymore.
One point my brother's like, "Are you sleeping?" And I was like, "Oh, what I missed?" He's like, "Not much." And I had missed like 30 minutes of the movie.
I don't know. I like that movie. I thought Catwoman was amazing. Say what you want about the rest of the movie. Catwoman was amazing.
And dude, the makeup on Penguin was just so intriguing. The look,
very different than the original comic book version. Like that
for sure.
Tim Burton all the way.
Oh yeah, he was totally a Tim Burton sketch brought to life. It was. And of course, you also got Christopher Walken in this movie. You cannot deny Christopher Walken and all that. And
I mean, I wish we had George Clooney as Batman in this one, but
no Clooney, Oh. All right. So the idea behind this, dear viewer and listener, is the idea is now it's in your hands to basically decide who did the best at defending their role of. Is it going to be Mike doing the ref? Is it going to be Trevor doing Gremlins? Is it going to be myself, Troy, doing Lethal Weapons? Or is it going to be Gavin doing Batman Returns? Who defended their role the best at making you believe that out of the list of 4 that we had to defend, that theirs was the best non-Christmassy Christmas movie? So
And one thing I
yeah.
just want to, I'm going to cut you off there
Okay.
real quick, Troy.
all right.
One thing about this one, and as well as the last few we've done, I think it's interesting with all these defending our roles, because what we have to defend is very different from each other. Like if you look at these non-Christmas movies, we have an action movie, we have like a popcorn horror movie, we have a Tim Burton Batman movie, we have a Dennis Leary weird crime
Comedy,
movie,
dark comedy.
yeah, dark comedy. And then all our defending styles are also very different. So it's kind of fun to see how the dice rolls, how we take what random thing we're giving and then trying to defend it different ways. So
Yeah.
anyways, I'm curious to see what the people say.
Yeah. So basically what you're going to do is over the next 2 weeks, we're going to have polls up on all of our social media. So social medias. You can check us out on Facebook. You will check us out on Instagram. You'll check us out on Twitter. There will be links at the end of this episode. There will be, and then any of the postings we will have links to that as well. And then please just go in and comment if you can comment, or if there is actually a poll, just choose one of the particular 4 that was given out. And if you want to, you say why that particular movie was defended the best, or if you also want to put in what do you feel out of the 4 or that we had available, because we all know Die Hard is probably the winner here. And thankfully for everyone else that no one got that. So that was kind of fun.
I'm just glad we were brave enough to put it in the list.
Exactly. We were,
Yeah.
yes. And again, like our Batman thing, we were talking why Kevin Conroy wasn't put into the Batmans, and we automatically knew that a Kevin Conroy defense would be the best defense. So
You just go
Kevin Conroy. Exactly. Yes. All right. So like I said, check out our social medias. Links will be at the end of this. You can check the postings for all of our different sections, and you will find the basically posting for this particular defending your role. So on that note, we're going to be wrapping up this particular episode. Thank you for joining in and sticking around for the whole entire show. We want to thank you for joining us. We're at, like I said at the beginning, this is episode 31. Just to give a little timestamp and all that, this is actually being recorded on the 11th of December, 2021. So if some of our information is a little latent by the time this is released, I believe it's going to be released on the upcoming Monday, so the 13th of December. So if anything falls through the cracks because something comes up Sunday that, oh my God, what the hell happened to George Lucas? And why wasn't that in the episode? Because you guys are big Star Wars fans. You guys,
I'm Googling right now.
I'm
What
Googling right
happened?
now. What has happened? What has happened in the past 24 hours? All right. So on that, we want to thank you for joining us, and be sure to tune in next week. Same bat time, same spider channel. And on the count of 3, we're going to do our collective goodbyes. Everyone ready? And 1, 2, 3.
Collective goodbye.
And scene.
You have just been listening to Geeking Off the Page with your hosts, Mike Kitchen, Gavin Burbage, Trevor Brown, and Troy Bowman. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Also, if you could leave us a rating and comment, that would assist in allowing others to find this podcast more easily. You can follow the podcast on the following social platforms: Instagram and Twitter, search for @PlanetGeekPod, all one word. On Facebook, search for Planet Geek Productions. Or you can send us an email to planetgeekpod@gmail.com. Buy the guys a coffee by going to Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/planetgeekpod. And know that any and all donations will go towards improving all current and future Planet Geek Productions programs. Thank you for listening.